aided my patient, and then an unforeseen moment unfolded. An authentic tale of betrayal upon entering the shadowy chamber. Clipboard clutched tightly. An unsettling sensation took root in my chest. I had navigated this path countless times, yet today, an unfamiliar sensation lingered in the air. Mr. Bennet, a man of few words, lingered in silence, exuding an enigmatic hesitation that eluded my understanding. Unbeknownst to me, as I drew near to him, a pivotal moment unfolded, unearthing a secret that ensnared us both in a tangled web of tension, intrigue, and doubt. Yet this was merely the outset. Upon entering the small, dimly lit examination room, with the clipboard firmly grasped in my hand, I sensed my heart racing, a tad faster than usual. While I had previously aided in patient examinations, this specific assignment brought with it an unusual sensation that left me feeling somewhat uneasy. As a nurse at a vibrant downtown clinic, I had faced countless scenarios, but the unfolding events with Mr. Bennet were beyond anything I could have foreseen. In the quietude of his early 50s, he was a man of few utterances, frequently withdrawing into the recesses of his own contemplations. He entered for his routine blood pressure and cardiac evaluations. Merely another day unfolds, unremarkable and routine. Upon stepping into the room, a wave of anticipation enveloped me, hinting that this day would reveal itself in a manner distinct from any previous occasion I had offered my help. There he sat, poised on the edge of the bed, his posture straight but infused with a palpable sense of uncertainty and reluctance. His gaze darted around the room, and he shifted uneasily beneath the thin hospital gown. "Good afternoon, Mr. Bennet," I greeted, my voice imbued with warmth, my smile welcoming as I entered the room. "How do you find yourself on this splendid day?" He nodded quickly, but a flicker of unease remained in his eyes. An unsettling feeling lingered in the air. As I approached, I extended my hand to help, meticulously arranging the monitoring equipment and carefully smoothing his gown to ensure everything was ready for the exam. As I embarked on my journey, an unforeseen spectacle captured my attention through the sheer curtain of material. My gaze was irresistibly pulled downward, entranced by the unique outline concealed within the folds of the gown. Time paused, suspended in a fleeting moment. At that instant, a flush of warmth spread across my cheeks, compelling me to look away, as I silently urged myself to hold on to my composure. In my earlier days, I traversed the journey of a nurse. I had refined my abilities to maneuver through those awkward instances. From time to time, such events unfold in our lives. It was simply an exploration of the physical form. However, the way it revealed itself, so sudden and unexpected, unsettled me more than I had expected. With a soft nod, I encouraged you to make yourself comfortable as we awaited the doctor's arrival. My voice remained calm as I cleared my throat and reached out again to adjust the sheet around you. As I moved forward, he too executed a sudden change, his speed surprising me in an unexpected manner. The hem of the gown delicately fell aside, unveiling the secrets hidden beneath. Everything was exposed for all to witness. Drawing in a quick breath, I instinctively turned my head, attempting to restore my composure. A tempest of ideas swirled within the confines of my consciousness. Ought I to mention it? Shall we depart from this place? Behave as though nothing ever happened? As I stood on the precipice of decision, a chilling creak echoed through the air, and the door swung open ominously behind me. I beg your pardon. It was not my intention to disrupt the rhythm. A voice broke the silence as another nurse cautiously peeked her head through the doorway. In an instant, she perceived the tension that hung in the atmosphere, and with a quick, decisive movement, she retreated, resolutely shutting the door behind her. I cast a fleeting look at Mr. Bennet, who seemed completely taken aback. He hurried to protect himself, but the thick tension hung heavily in the air. His cheeks flushed with a vivid hue, and he averted his gaze, focusing intently on the ground to avoid the possibility of meeting anyone's eyes. In a voice tinged with uncertainty, he murmured an apology, his words slipping softly from his lips. I took a deep breath, striving to restore my calm. "Everything is in order. Come, let us ready you for the examination that lies ahead, shall we?" As I reached for fresh linens and supplies, a sudden brush of sensation sent a shiver coursing down my spine. His hand grazed my own. Once again I found myself paralyzed. It was a transient instant, appearing almost serendipitous, yet the way it lingered in the atmosphere compelled me to reflect on whether it was truly an error, or maybe a quiet communication yearning to be deciphered. An electric sensation coursed through my skin, leaving me momentarily paralyzed, wrestling with the appropriate response and why professional instinct nudged me to dismiss it and move forward. Yet my intuition softly cautioned me to proceed with caution. In that instant, the door let out a haunting creak as it opened once again. At this juncture it was Dr. Morgan. Utterly unaware of the happenings that had just transpired, as all well in this realm? With a radiant smile, he perused the patient chart as he entered the room. "Indeed, doctor," I exclaimed with urgency, stepping aside. Mr. Bennett stands poised to embark on his narrative journey that I pressed onward, casting aside the shadows of what once was. It was time for me to venture beyond the limits of those four walls. As the doctor commenced his familiar line of questioning, I quietly slipped away, my heart racing in my chest. The door clicked shut behind me, but the unease hung in the air like a persistent shadow. As the afternoon sun started its descent, I became engrossed in my usual rhythm, navigating through chart updates and well-known duties, when unexpectedly, my phone buzzed with a notification from the front desk, ushering me into a fresh chapter of the day. "Mr. Bennett has summoned Nurse Claire to attend the follow-up appointment set for tomorrow." As I stared at the message, a tightness coiled within me. What is it that sets me apart as the one selected for this journey? Have I made a mistake in some manner? Had I inadvertently uncovered a hidden truth, one that was never intended for my gaze? Or had something deeper begun to take root? The next day came upon me with a surprising haste. Once again, I found myself poised before Mr. Bennett's door. Taking a deep breath as I readied myself to knock, I urged myself to uphold my poise, to embody professionalism, and to preserve my space. As the door creaked open and our eyes met, a familiar wave of unease enveloped me once again. A smile illuminated his lips, radiating a warmth and confidence that starkly contrasted with the shy, embarrassed expression he had worn just the day prior. It possessed an extraordinary essence, radiating confidence and expertise. He spoke softly, "You've been on my mind." For a fleeting moment, my heart danced in my chest before I finally released a gentle laugh. With a calm demeanor, I refocused my gaze on Mr. Bennett and said, "Let's turn our attention to your checkup." I sought to guide the dialogue toward a more fruitful path. As I drew near to his foreline, a tempest of thoughts swirled within my mind, an unsettling atmosphere hung palpably in the surroundings. And deep within me, a stirring sense of unease murmured that this was but the beginning of a much larger tale. The next morning, I entered the clinic, firm in my resolve to keep my distance. The occurrences of yesterday had awakened a disquieting feeling within me. I caught myself in a loop of thoughts, reminding myself that I was descending into the depths of overthinking. Perhaps Mr. Bennett was merely a touch clumsy and shy, and I was letting it all obscure my clarity. Nevertheless, a glimmer of recollection summoned his plea once again. He had come in search of my company. Ah, that radiant smile! It was undeniably tangible, not merely a product of my imagination. As I traversed the day, I interacted with fellow patients, attending to their morning vitals and maneuvering through the ocean of paperwork that lay before me. As the clock struck 10, the front desk called for me again, declaring that Mr. Bennett was waiting in exam room 3, specifically requesting my presence just for me. An unsettling flutter stirred within my stomach. With my chart in hand and shoulders squared, I prepared to set forth on the journey that lay ahead. This time, I would make certain that all was unmistakably clear. I would adopt a direct approach, perhaps even a touch detached if the circumstances demand it. Effortlessly find your path through it. Upon entering the room, I found Mr. Bennett seated, his posture straight and once again adorned in a hospital gown. He seemed relaxed, maybe a touch too relaxed. His hands lay gracefully in his lap, while his expression cloaked a mystery that eluded easy understanding. "Salutations to you on this splendid morning." I extended a brief salutation, striving to preserve an air of urgency. "Permit me to ready you for the journey that awaits." Once again, he revealed that smile, his eyes overflowing with a disquieting assurance that sent a chill coursing through me. "Your presence fills me with joy." In that instant, I inhaled deeply and allowed the surrounding world to dissolve into the background. "Today we shall set forth on an exploration focused on your well-being." As I approached, he stayed quiet, intent on fine-tuning his foretubing and examining the monitor with keen attention. I navigated with careful intent, making certain not to linger in any one spot for an extended period. As I leaned in slightly to adjust the cuff on his arm, He spoke again, his voice low and tinged with a sense of secrecy. Lately, I find myself preoccupied with thoughts of you. My jaw clenched, a quiet tempest gathering inside. Mr. Bennett, my intention today is to focus on delivering the care you require, rather than engaging in personal conversations. He bestowed a knowing smile, as though he had foreseen that precise response from the very beginning. His eyes followed my every action with a fervor that sent chills racing along my spine. In a surprising turn of events, the door creaked open, revealing what lay beyond. A surge of relief enveloped me as I almost sprang at the sight of another person stepping into the room. However, the relief I felt was short-lived. The doctor was not the one. A woman in her mid-40s stood there, her striking features drawing attention, elegantly attired, yet distinctly removed from the world of scrubs. With a purposeful gait, she stepped inside, her gaze scanning the expanse of the room. For a fleeting moment, her gaze locked onto mine before it gracefully shifted toward Mr. Bennett. Her voice possessed a tranquil essence, yet it was tinged with an undercurrent of tension. Have I chanced upon a moment in the midst of unfolding? Mr. Bennett's expression flickered with the faintest hint of uncertainty. Most certainly not. I straightened my posture, my heart pounding with eager expectation as I concluded my efforts. The last details were falling into place. I will take my leave, granting you both the opportunity to savor this moment together. In a fluid movement, I slipped by her and into the hallway, narrowly avoiding her next words. As the door gently clicked into place, I exhaled sharply, savoring a fleeting moment of liberation in the ensuing silence. The vision of the woman remained with me, her captivating eyes and deliberate voice imprinted in my mind. Ah, there she stood, his cherished partner. Validation was unnecessary. The truth resonated within me, and she sensed it deep within her being, or at the very least, she harbored a whisper of that truth. Upon my return to the nurse's station, I endeavored to cast aside the recollection of that encounter. Still, the memory of her gaze remained etched in my thoughts, as if she had caught sight of a secret concealed within those four walls, something forbidden that was never intended for her to see. In that fleeting moment, I felt ensnared in a labyrinth of doubt, contemplating whether I had narrowly evaded a dangerous predicament or awkwardly emerged from a humiliating episode. As the afternoon sun started to dip below the horizon, I became engrossed in the task of sorting through files when, quite suddenly, another message appeared. Mr. Bennett has called upon you again for tomorrow, requesting your support during the follow-up examination. I found myself transfixed by the screen, completely taken aback. It became clear that the moment had arrived to conclude this chapter. Driven by a sense of purpose, I approached the lead nurse, Marianne, and asked if it might be feasible for another caregiver to assume responsibility for Mr. Bennett's case the next day. He seems to be remarkably comfortable. I decline with careful consideration. If you don't mind, I would appreciate a bit of distance. Marianne's brow furrowed in thought. Tomorrow might reveal some shortcomings, yet I shall strive to uncover a remedy. An unsettling feeling resided deep within me. The next day arrived with a haste I had not anticipated. I examined the roster closely. My name hovered in the air alongside Leonard's. Taking a deep breath, I collected my thoughts and prepared for the challenges that awaited me. This time I found myself embracing a role that transcended the boundaries of nursing. I entered the situation with defined boundaries, ready to reveal those truths. Upon entering the room, I found him there, patiently awaiting my arrival. This occasion, the ambience exuded a distinctive quality. He bore no hint of a smirk. He was anything but at ease. He stared out the window, his fingers clenched firmly in his lap. I wanted to talk to you, he murmured, his back still turned. I hesitated at the doorway, caught in a moment of indecision, unable to cross the threshold. What story shall we craft? In a measured gesture, he pivoted his head, fixing his eyes upon me. Allow me to transport you to the series of events that led up to this very moment. I stayed where I was, keeping my voice steady and composed. Permit me to offer my assistance with your care, Mr. Bennett. If you have another concern, it would be wise to address it with the administration. He shook his head with a slow, deliberate motion. There's no requirement for masks in this space. I have no doubt you felt it too. A chill crept along my spine. A misunderstanding appears to have arisen, I declared with certainty. Your perception of events diverges from the true essence of the narrative. He leaned in ever so slightly. In that instant, you made the decision to remain. In that instant, the door emitted a chilling creak as it slowly swung open again. The doctor was not the one, but there she stood, the cherished partner of his heart. With a gentle step, she crossed the threshold, her eyes flitting about the space, initially locking onto mine before wandering to his. "What is currently taking shape in this very instant?" she asked with a casual demeanor that I took a moment to pause, contemplating the journey that lay before me. As I readied myself to depart, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. As I walked past her and crossed the threshold, I felt her eyes follow me, sharp and cutting like fragments of glass as I stood in the corridor. I took a deep breath, oblivious to the fact that I had been holding my breath the entire time. A shadow cast itself upon me, an unsettling feeling creeping into my very marrow, murmuring that this narrative was far from reaching its end. The rest of that shift felt like meandering through a dense fog. Every time I strolled past the corridor adjacent to exam room 3, a surge of anxiety enveloped me as I prepared for the chance of crossing paths with Mr. Bennett, or even more intimidating, his wife once more. With my eyes locked on the charts, vitals, and patient check-ins, I delved into the work before me, attempting to conceal the discomfort that bubbled just beneath the surface. Certainly it was. The memory of his gaze remained etched in my thoughts, the resonance of his words reverberated, and the unsettling calmness in his wife's voice cut through the atmosphere as she stepped in and questioned the developing situation. The incessant appearance of the same notification on my work tablet was quite exasperating. "Mr. Bennett has expressed a desire for your presence during his upcoming visit." It hung around me, an unshakable shadow that refused to fade as the sun sank beneath the horizon. I felt completely drained. As I finished my shift, I headed towards the staff exit, a thrill of excitement coursing through me at the thought of stepping outside and inhaling the invigorating fresh air. As I rounded the corner, there he stood, directly in my path. Mr. Bennett Harris lingered by the double doors, his coat elegantly draped over his shoulders, a palpable sense of anticipation enveloping him as he waited. I abruptly stopped, ensnared by the instant. "I just wanted to talk," he said, his voice softening, evoking the warmth of two old friends reconnecting after a long day's toil. I surveyed the landscape around me. A small group of nurses meandered past the nurses' station, seemingly oblivious to their surroundings. "Mr. Bennett, this predicament is rather inappropriate," that he approached with measured steps. "Do not be afraid, for I come with no ill intentions. Fear does not touch me." I spun a narrative that was not grounded in reality. Still, I discover myself enveloped in a sense of disquiet. "You have embarked on a journey through unknown realms." Just as I was on the verge of departing, a voice resonated from behind me. In a distant realm, there lived a girl by the name of Claire. Noah stood there, a member of the junior staff hailing from the radiology department. He gestured with a beaming smile, exuding a sense of warmth. In a fluid motion, I turned back to him, a surge of gratitude enveloping me for the pleasant diversion. As I turned again, I discovered that Mr. Bennett had already withdrawn, his expression a puzzle that slipped through my grasp again. He murmured gently. In quietude, I faded into the shadows, leaving behind no evidence of my exit. The next day, I reiterated to Marianne my desire for another to take on the responsibility of caring for Mr. Bennett. She pledged to delve into the possibilities, but with our small team, my optimism waned. I avoided his hallway, searching for solace in different areas, striving to regain a sense of normalcy. On that fateful afternoon, during a fleeting moment of tranquility in the staff room, a message materialized on my tablet. "Patient Leonard is requesting the presence of Nurse Claire. It holds paramount significance." An unsettling tide surged within me. A fleeting instant arrived when I almost allowed it to fade into oblivion. It was almost forgotten, yet I made the decision to remember. With unwavering resolve, I seized my badge, straightened my scrubs, and made my way back to room 3. If he had the audacity to make another move, I would bring it to a decisive conclusion in that very moment. Upon entering the room, I expected him to dive into conversation without hesitation. He just did not. Mr. Bennett sat on the edge of the bed, staring out the window again, his face more serious than before. "I need to speak with you," he said, his gaze averted. I upheld a consistent tone. "Could you share some insights regarding your care?" "Not in any way. What occurred?" I hovered near the threshold. In a time long past, there lived a man known as Mr. Bennett, I have already provided my explanation. He whirled around, cutting me off in the midst of my words. Do you think you are the only one lost in a fog of confusion? As I blinked, the world around me appeared to freeze for an instant, caught off guard and unready. I have no desire to engage in games, he declared, slowly rising from the earth beneath him. However, one cannot ignore the unmistakable existence of something important in this context. Your story remains untold to the world. That holds a profound meaning. This reflects my commitment to upholding a standard of professionalism. In a fleeting surge of raw emotion, I broke. As he moved closer, I remained steadfast, resolute in my determination. In a heartbeat, he grasped my wrist with a sudden, fluid movement. No, I asserted, pulling my arm away with unwavering determination. He presented a faint smile, almost imperceptible, yet brimming with untold stories. Will you guard this secret, dear friend? The picture that reveals itself to us is unmistakably vivid. Once again, the door emitted a chilling creak. There she stood, elegantly positioned just past the entrance, a silhouette entwined in the subtle interplay of illumination and darkness. His beloved spouse. She had remained in that spot long enough to capture a hint of something captivating. Her expression was a haunting puzzle, cloaked in veils of intrigue and silence. Her gaze held a profound intensity. I withdrew quickly, exiting the room without a single glance back at either of them. My heart raced with an intensity that bordered on agony. Little did I know, the murmurs of Mrs. Langford had found their way to her attention. Her convictions remained an enigma to me. Yet, beneath the surface, I felt an undeniable change had taken place. As the evening progressed and I readied myself to depart from the clinic, my gaze landed on her again, Mrs. Langford, who was quietly waiting at the front desk. I need a word, she declared, her tone steady and resolute. After a brief pause filled with doubt, I ultimately acquiesced with a nod. She led me into a humble, time-worn office nestled at the end of the corridor. With the door clicking shut behind her, she turned to face me, her arms crossed defiantly over her chest. I am cognizant of the measures you have undertaken regarding my husband. My heart plummeted. Ah, esteemed lady, I can assure you it is not as it seems. Do not deceive me, she shot back, her voice laced with intensity. I have observed the fleeting looks he directs towards you, and the manner in which you respond in kind. In a calm and unwavering tone, I asserted, I have not committed any wrongdoing. You're not the first, she replied, her tone as cold as ice. But you have the opportunity to be the last. With that, she took her leave and I remained, enveloped in solitude as it cloaked me like a dense fog. The lines had blurred, the rules had transformed, and whatever this was, it was far from over. The ensuing days unraveled in a tempest of anxiety and deliberate movements. I hovered in the dim corners of the clinic, avoiding the gaze of exam room 3, as though it were a realm shrouded in secrecy. I even modified my break schedule to create a bit of distance from both Mr. Bennet and his wife. Nevertheless, the weight of what had occurred remained with me eternally. Her warning echoed in my mind, a persistent ticking that quickened the flow of time, yet I found myself completely unprepared for what came next. As the sun sank beneath the horizon, casting elongated shadows in the softly illuminated corridors, most of the staff had already exchanged their goodbyes and left for the day. As I completed the final touches on the paperwork by the nurse's station, my eyes drifted to Mr. Bennet, who stood alone at the end of the hall, waiting with quiet patience. For a fleeting moment, my breath caught in my throat. He had long been destined to leave that place behind. The moment for his checkups had reached its conclusion. What was it that compelled him to linger in the shadows? I stood up, ready to exit through the back door. As I turned the corner, he stepped out from the darkness. Claire, he murmured, his voice a gentle whisper, laced with fatigue. I have a thought that I feel compelled to express. It appears we have conveyed everything that requires conveying. I reacted promptly, keen to glide past him without drawing attention. He deftly hindered my path, not through aggression, but in a way that drew my focus irresistibly. She engaged in a dialogue with you, did she not? He asked. I offered a subtle nod, keeping my posture impeccably straight. Certainly, she did. It appears prudent to bring this to a close before it evolves into something more concerning. Instead of withdrawing, he presented a smile, languid and unsettling. She remains blissfully oblivious to the intricate tale that lurks beneath the surface. In that instant I felt it again, the constricting hold of discomfort, the ominous presence hiding in the darkness. In a heartbeat, before I could even collect my scattered thoughts, he grasped my wrist with an unyielding hold. "Let go of your hold on me." I wrenched myself away with a swift motion, escaping the grip that confined me. "This is an unwarranted disruption. You won't report me," he said, his voice unwavering, "because you grasp how this narrative develops. It is your story against my story." As I readied myself to speak, my words faltered in my throat, for there, shrouded in the shadows of the hallway, stood his wife. She had absorbed every word. The corridor descended into an unforeseen coldness, enveloped in stillness. Mr. Bennet remained motionless, a sudden realization washing over him as he perceived what lingered just behind him. He pivoted with an intentional languor. Mrs. Langford stood with her arms crossed, her expression impassive, yet her eyes sparkled with a sharp, perceptive glimmer. "Is everything okay here?" she asked, her voice imbued with an unsettling calmness. With a sudden impulse, I stepped back, guided by an innate sense of caution. As I departed, the air was thick with words left unsaid. I glided past them quietly, a sense of urgency driving me toward the exit, while my heart thudded with an insistent rhythm. Had she mustered the bravery to confront him? Would she have the audacity to confront me again? Unraveling the truth filled me with trepidation. I thought that would elevate the conclusion of the story. Just as I was about to reach for the door handle and exit the clinic, a hand softly settled on my shoulder. I turned, ready for what lay ahead. It was indeed she, Madame Leonard. "Wait a moment," she whispered softly. I looked at her, ensnared in a fleeting moment of uncertainty, divided between the instinct to escape and the longing to listen to her voice. Nevertheless, there existed a certain quality in her voice that halted me in my tracks. "We need to talk," she said, gesturing toward an empty consultation room just a few steps away. With a weighty heart, I followed in her wake. Upon entering, she softly shut the door and turned to face me, her expression a puzzle yearning to be deciphered. Her eyes sparkled with a hint of understanding. "I have observed the manner in which he looks at you. I am fully cognizant of his capabilities." My mouth was dry and desolate. "What lies at the heart of it all?" With unwavering eyes, she proclaimed, "I do not come to instill fear within you. Permit me to offer my assistance as you navigate your path. What is it that you desire?" "I'm not the woman you think I am," she continued, her voice floating through the air like a fragile thread. "Tom, my husband, conceals a mysterious secret. He spins a web of allure, enchanting those around him, especially winning the affections of women. I have observed him execute that act before. I have permitted it to meander until now. In that instant, I decided to welcome the stillness." She elegantly drew a folder from her handbag and presented it to me. Within lay photographs, documents, and messages, each fragment intricately weaving a narrative of a person I had never expected to encounter. "For years," she narrated, "he has been engaged in this endeavor. This narrative weaves together not just the nurses, but also the colleagues, neighbors, and even a family friend, each contributing to the unfolding story." My hands trembled with eagerness as I flipped through the pages, uncovering the mysteries hidden within. "You see," she said, her voice suddenly steady once more, "this narrative we craft transcends the boundaries of our individual selves. The narrative centers on the very nature of power. He will persist on his journey, resolute, until an intervention alters his trajectory." I raised my eyes. "What compels you to reveal all of this to me?" With an elegant gesture, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small silver key, its surface shimmering in the light. "I request your help in uncovering the reality surrounding him." "What is it that you desire?" "You already have one foot in the flames," she warned, her voice spinning a narrative of caution and allure. "Why not ignite it with fire?" The environment enveloped me in a whirlwind, a captivating ballet that rendered the space in a soft whirl. Could she genuinely be serious? Might this be a clever trap? Or had she truly put an end to the pretense of being the perfect partner? Just as I was poised to reply, she flung the door wide open. "Contemplate it," she remarked as she stepped into the realm beyond. "Emmeline, however, do keep an eye on the clock. He is intricately crafting the strands of his forthcoming journey." There I stood, a folder gripped tightly in one hand, a key swaying from the other, caught in a world far deeper and darker than I had ever imagined. Thus came the pivotal moment when I faced a choice: to retreat and pretend this had never happened, or to stay and welcome the unknown adventure that awaited me. I appreciate your company as we navigate the narrative of today's story. Make sure to subscribe and delve deeper into the wealth of content available, revealing the countless enchanting shades that life presents. Transcribed by the adept capabilities of technology at https://otter.ai.